Hey, so I'm going to show you one way that you can kind of research any photos that you have in the way that I have many, many times, just to see, like, is my picture someone else? Could it be proven? If you upload it to Pinterest and you do this outline thing, it'll pull up similar looking pictures. Generally, it's pulling up pictures that are like the same resolution, same shading. I mean, that I don't think that's even a man. I think that's a woman. So I looked through this. I couldn't find anything that was this picture or this man. There's a lot of Abraham Lincoln photos that keep popping up, ironically. Because I think he had really high cheekbones, and so does this guy. And that's what that other alleged image is just lacking, you know? But I found this in probably like fall of my picture here on Pinterest. And it was fall of 2016. I just looked, went in here, and you can do Google Images. It's a lot more. I don't know why we're finding Angelina Jolie, but I mean, now we're finding things like this, but you'll start seeing a lot of the scannel daguerreotype. This is not the original. This has been photoshopped right there of the scannel. There's a Spiritist picture. There's the Carter image. Everyone was saying they love that photo. And so if you look at this point, it's been 5 years. It's like the anniversary of researching all this 5 years ago. I personally can't believe it. And so you'll see I have a pretty low resolution picture. And you see I've got it screenshot just around how the juvenile instructor screenshot it. So if we pull up just to show you, I mean, that's really what I took, you know? You see how that's cropped. See how my video's cropped. All I had was this. And so this was a low resolution. This was extremely low resolution. So you can see that I couldn't even get like a straight line. It's like zigzagged. This is basically, it matched the resolution of that picture. I'm not sure. Procreate's an interesting app. So I was just amazed. I remember being so amazed at how things were, boom, edge of the mouth, the nose, everything. And things kind of jumped around. It was one of my worst videos. It was the first time I ever sketched. It was just what I wanted to do. I wasn't trained to do that, and I have not found any indication that forensic anthropologists or anyone does this. I think it's something that I do, but I would be surprised if I just figured out and learned to do something that I just wasn't told that that's what they do. I'm not trying to say. So I just don't know. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you see here it is October 2017. I have a high resolution copy. So it's all of a sudden, I got this video. So this was October 2017. You can see, oh, these are smoother lines. You can see the paper and everything. But of course, I chose pink on top of it. I often just, sometimes I make those videos and I'm like, oh, that wasn't good, but I spent hours editing it and I should have chosen a different color, but. So I'll kind of explain the reason I ended up basically I'm going to mess with the contrast here, you guys. Bring the brightness really low. So you can really see like the fibers. So when I was looking at, there we go. So this is Gawain Weaver's photography. I'm going to close this right there. Don't save. So when I first got this in the mail and I scanned it on my printer and got a high DPI picture, I was looking at the paper and trying to figure out if I could see, like, as you look at this, it almost looks like you can see pencil markings. And now I'm not even sure where it's possible the paper changed, but I could have sworn that it said Cesar. But I'd up the contrast a lot more than this. And so I was curious, I thought I could see pencil markings on the paper at one point. Because if I just undo, you can definitely tell that, I mean, this is pencil. So someone took a pencil to this paper and they sketched all around a nice oval. And that's one of the reasons he was sure that this really could be from a daguerreotype, because it's this oval. It's not the exact, it's almost the exact same shape of oval as an Emma Smith's original daguerreotype, which again, I've tried to be respectful and not put in videos, even though I've seen it and everything and analyzed it. But I'm just letting other people analyze all that. So, I mean, this is very, very high resolution, right? This cost me $300. So, and he saw no indication that it looked fake or anything. And usually there is some indication if things are off, and they can do a whole lot more tests if need be. But he said it's often just a waste of money. So that's what he told me, because I had enough for that day. But anyway, seeing words on there, I got put into I'll just tell you, Meg Stout, and then she knew Andrew E. Hott, and they were going to see if they could get a mass spec. She was just excited, and I was telling her everything I'd found out at that point, like February 2018. I'd just gone through a bout of shingles and was so sick, and I still was on a ton of meds, and I was telling them, like, you guys, I'm on a lot of stuff, and it was so painful. It was awful, but that's, when I was thrown in with Curtis Weber, and I'd already read his Skulls and Crossbones, and if you look at the internet, you think he's the only one that studied them, and that's what's frustrating. It would have been really helpful to know all these other people, all these other studies, but you just don't really, it's hard to find it on Google. It's not on the first page, at least, because just basically it's just him, and someone said he was being silenced, and they just kept, anyway. It was just to see, so if he thought my picture was Joseph Smith, Andrew E. Hott would see if he could talk to someone, but he didn't really have, he'd worked with the Joseph Smith papers, and they'd use a mass spectrometer, and they could look and try to see, they're able to find if there could be writing. They can analyze writing, or if there used to be writing on something, basically. And so I was willing to do that, but Curtis basically said, gave a quick analysis, and he was just super negative, and just said, I don't believe there's a photo. I don't believe there's a photo. And so that's what he said publicly. So it's nothing. It shouldn't surprise anyone, right? Because to him, he proved the skull that has no facial bones is Joseph Smith's. So it, you guys would have to have that probably, right? But in reality, before he wrote that, 6 doctors and 3 different publications had disagreed with him. He just didn't want to say that, obviously. So since he didn't say it, he's online paper, free paper, everyone can see it. They just don't know. They think to me, like, I was newbie to all this, and it took me forever to find out the stuff that I found out even last fall. And it's just frustrating that it took that long, because there's just so much pushback by people that are just don't believe there can be a photo of Joseph Smith, or if there is, there's something evil and bad going on. Like, nothing good can happen, right? Because so many bad things have happened. So it's good to be really negative. I don't think it's good to be negative. I think you stop thinking. You stop thinking. If you're so negative, like your brain just shuts off and you just don't let in new information. You don't think critically, to be frank. But that's how that happened. And then I just was just like, but what are you're going to analyze my photo? I'm not asking you to. Why did they think you can do that? Because it's clear that I don't think you are a forensic analyst. Asking that, and he's like, I'm not. He just studied craniofacial reconstruction on and off on his own for 2 years. He's a linguist. He works with language. So I'm like, well, I'm sure I'll find a forensic analyst. And I did. And I just have to be so grateful that I got to talk to them and work with them. And we've written a paper, and we're rewriting some stuff, but planning to publish it still. Because for all I know, with the new photo, they might have been like, well, see you, girl. You're not paying us a dime, so, and I'm not. I don't have any money. So, but we've all had money issues, right? So, I'm not the only one in the world. So you can up the contrast. I can try to show you. It didn't seem quite so apparent when you lower. I don't know. Like, basically, when I got this resolution from Weaver, I remember looking and I'm like, I don't see it anymore. Why don't I see this anymore? But if I go ahead and open up one of my own scans, hopefully nothing weird comes up. I don't think I have anything weird on here. If it does, ignore it. Look for my own scan. I'm going to try to find my scanned version. As you see, I've taken a lot of photos of my photo with my cell phone. I bought a new camera a while back. And then that worked really good. Just trying to which one of these was one of my first scans. It's hard to remember. I'm having a hard time. I think it's just this one. Yeah, because it was a white background. So we're looking for the white background. I think it'll just pop up as a new tab. So it's still high resolution, but it's not a $300 camera. And he just had a beautiful setup. And he's very professional. He knows his stuff. I think he's also studied chemistry. So he's really smart, you guys. See, now I can see it. Okay. Isn't that weird, you guys? See, there's a C-E-C. I thought it was Cesar, but Cesar spelled wrong. And I was reading Lucy Mack-Smith's book. At the very end, I think I saw this, and then I read that Joseph said, if I was like Cesar, I might live as long as Cesar. Cesar actually lived into his 40s. Joseph didn't. And he said, I might live as long as Cesar if I didn't have so many Brutuses. So Brutus killed, Cesar. And it's interesting. Well, of course, it's a huge bright light scanning it. And I do have my worries that maybe it damaged the paper because I scanned it 2 or 3, not a bunch of times. But old photos, I should have looked up, is that really dangerous, some old photo to scan it with a bright scanner like that? But I've kept it in paper and kept it in the dark. So you can see here, I basically took it and... But again, this whole story, this is real. I really did just find it, and... Unless I brought the contrast down. I could do that, bring the brightness. Or you can up the contrast all the way. Bring the brightness down like that. Let me try to find a marker there. I think it's right across from that dot. So if we go here. Okay, there. Yeah, you just don't see it as well. It's so strange. You could almost see a C, but here it really looked like you could see possibly what used to be pencil markings. Like you can see that there's a scratch right there. I just was obsessed with when I first got it. I'm holding the piece of paper. I just for hours looking at it. So, and then zooming out. But it's just the paper has so many things going on. So that is why that happened, and I was curious. And that's something I would still be willing and love to do as long as I signed something with someone, and I would, no way in heck would I just mail this. That was the thing. I was like, there's no way I'm going back to Utah. Their driving horrifies me. And it gives me severe panic attacks. And I probably said that, and it's true. I'm like, I'm not going back there. And then I did go back like a year later, but I flew and I did not drive. And yeah, I just don't like going to Utah. I did not like living there. I do not like driving through there. They're bullies. If they see you have an out-of-state license plate, they'll try to drive you off the road. And then now I realize they're possibly part of these breakaway polygamists that often aren't good people. Like the Kingston groups in Salt Lake, they're very, very abusive men. Very evil. It's very sad. It's just, I don't think polygamy makes people men evil, but I think a lot of evil men are men who have no self-control, or men who are severely addicted to pornography, or like, yeah, we should live polygamy again. It'll help me with my self-control problems, which I think it's the opposite. I don't think God would inspire a man or allow a man who has self-control problems or is watching video or pictures of a Chauncey Higbee abusing a poor innocent girl that was probably kidnapped or being abused at her home or sold by her own parents, just horrifying stories. That's what Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad, that's why they exist, because of the porn industry. It's evil. That's why you have so many men that are sociopaths. And there are a lot of men that don't murder people that are sociopaths. A lot of women date and they just try to get used to or try to be like a man and try to be as apathetic as them or as callous. And I don't think you should be that way. If you just can't find a good, kind, Christ-like, innocent guy, or at least one who's repented of stuff and has done everything he can to not look at that stuff if he has before. I mean, you don't want a guy that's lying about it. And really, you don't see much more in here. But yeah, when you look here at this copy, I can kind of see it, the Cesar. But yep, that's that story. So now it might turn into 20 minutes of looking at the paper and looking at the fibers of the paper. But we could bring this. But oh yeah, that'll go, because it's high resolution copy, it'll go really dark. So we don't necessarily want that. But a mass spectrometer basically, let me pull that up. Mass spec scan. Mass spectrometry. So Andrew E. Hott, so Meg Stout thought that he did have access, and they'd analyze letters and things like that, right? So I believe that they do different things, and they can, again, I'm not even an expert, and Godwin Weaver was saying, well, we could analyze the paper and do this and that, but like, I could only be there for a couple hours. He wanted me to drop off my picture and leave it there, and I refused. I didn't want to leave it. I wanted to be there while he analyzed it, and I think most people would feel the same way. I don't know if this is the right thing. I really don't know, you guys. We could look up so the Joe Smith papers. I love. I used to be obsessed with that. But I guess they use that to analyze some of their papers, and they can isolate basically what I'd researched. I think this is what Meg said, but she's an engineer. She's so smart. She's an interesting person. they can isolate certain colors, and I mean, they can analyze paper in incredible ways, whereas I mean, you can mess around and change things a lot. You can do auto tone, auto color. Basically, it should be from that dot. We should see that C, but and it's possible because there's just so much contrast. I mean, so much detail that's pulled up. But of course, also, when we do up the contrast a lot, you can really tell, hey, his bottom lip has that shape. It really drops down like that. And then we can also just pull up the death mask. I won't do that right now, but yep, I think that's just where I'll leave it right now. But yeah, it's just kind of fun to revisit that and just to explain why I was willing to talk to him. I was kind of like, oh, actually they didn't ask at all. It was like, hey, I'm going to ask him. And if he thinks this is Joseph Smith, I just personally think it really is. Everything that I've found out, but spiritually speaking, I really, really think it is. But anyway, I won't say any more. And definitely when you up this, you can see that eyebrow does that. You see that in all of the paintings. And then you see that this eyebrow goes down. Just a lot of little details I can see in the paintings. And I just really believe it's him. And his ears stick out. All of his son's ears stuck out too. And he's not bald. I hate that people say that. That pisses me off. But anyway. But when you up the contrast, lower the contrast. Basically, every time you copy a picture, we think it might have been copied 3 times. Daguerreotype, cartography. And so, yeah, but then you see this double. You see that marking? There's so many things. I could just sit there and look at the artwork. I could, if I was allowed to do a presentation for 8 hours on everything I found out, I could fill the 8 hours, you guys. I mean, how many videos have I done? A lot. Anyway, have a good day.